classical music is very rigid. There's really a right or wrong to this genre, and I thankfully doing production, I was able to like let out some steam, just like, hey, I could do something where there is no right or wrong. This is something that's completely open. My name is Eddie Lim, and I go by the name Jazzinuf, and I come from Seoul, South Korea. So growing up in Seoul, South Korea, which I lived for my first 14 years of my life, has been like kind of a cultural explosion for me because Korea has its very own rich history and arts, and our families they really appreciate art and culture. So I've always been around seeing like traditional concerts, like Korean style. It always inspired me. Um, but ultimately, I delved into the world of music starting actually in the age around 13, 14, when my band director, I was a clarinet guy, and I have a low voice. And I was just like whispering to my friends and when he's talking, of course, and he got so angry. And then during the middle of the class, he had like a microphone and an amp because he's like, Edward Lim, if you're gonna be talking, go to choir. And then I was like so offended. I was like, no way. But then it became a happy ending where I went to him after the class. I'm like, hey, this is kind of out of pocket. Did you really have to shame me in front of everyone? And he's like, oh, but I'm really sorry about that. But actually, choir apparently needs low voices like yourself, so you should go check it out. And I went to choir and I just checked it out. And I started learning how to sing from there. And my journey started as an opera singer, actually, studying classical voice. And thanks to that, I moved to the United States. And I was surrounded by musicians and artists. And that's probably been the biggest blessing because that kind of opened my mind to like different avenues of music and production, recording, many, many things. So thanks to opera, it opened many doors, and that's a crucial part of who I am today and why I'm here in America. So I came here when I was 14, went to a music school or art school called Interlochen, and it's based in Michigan. And it's a school based in middle of nowhere. All you have is trees, lakes, and I was a city guy living in Seoul my entire life. So when I embarked to the school, it was definitely a culture shock for me. But and a lot of kids had a hard time adjusting to just like nature only. So it's been a really interesting like circumstance given like metropolitan city was all I've had in my 14 years. And suddenly I'm out in the woods and I'm encouraged to like do music. And I think that's where kind of my journey with lo-fi began. I had some free time after school. I couldn't just do opera the whole time because classical music is very rigid. There's really a right or wrong to this genre. And I thankfully doing production, I was able to like let out some steam, just like, hey, I could do something where there is no right or wrong. This is something that's completely open. So that's kind of where I truly began doing production in America, actually. Yeah. After I started producing, I just like became so addicted to the fact that I don't have to always communicate with people. I'm just like in my own world, in my own zone. I get to decide whether something is right. And I think in music, like the idea of like amusement, like the muse is very crucial. And it really gives you the time and space for you to explore what amuses you. And that's the productional aspect where I'm just like opening my mind, being curious of different sounds and harmonies. And it's just very breathtaking and it's just so lovely and so freeing. Whereas on the other side, in the classical sense, there really is like a structure. You have to follow these rules, and if you do it right, you do it right, and you're doing it great. But if you don't do it, then you have to try it again. And then so that's really methodical. Whereas production, there's no methods at all. You can choose to be an audio engineer whenever you want, and be a producer, heck, be a singer if you want, you know. So the two really complements each other pretty well. When I get burned out from production, sometimes I want a little bit of method. I want a little bit of somebody to tell me, that's the way to do it, and you should do it like this. But in the world of production, like you're your own boss, and nobody's here to tell you. There ain't no maestro like telling you you gotta do this, you know. So sometimes I get, you know, stuck there in this place where I'm like, oh, I really want some directions, and then I just move to classical for a bit, and then I'm like back in the grind, and then I get kind of burned out from there. It's like, oh, too many instructions. I just want to be free with my art. So that's when I go back to production, and they complement each other. Keeps me sane. I've been a huge admirer of hip hop, but like I'm talking about like the old school stuff. And even in Korea, in the early 2000s, there's been a very strong community of like old school boom bap, like jazz hop, a bit like culture. Um, and all these like rappers would be rapping on these beats and almost lo-fi-esque. And I would always be so like amused. I was amused by them. And thankfully, when I got to America and I got that time and space, I was like, I always really wanted to reproduce this kind of feeling that I got. And it was really a world of no destination. I just tried, just kept sailing. You know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but it slowly made me understand what I do like and what I don't like in production, and I guess that's how I'm here today. Yeah. In Korea, as everyone knows nowadays, like K-pop is like huge, right? And internationally, but back then, K-pop was huge domestically, like only in Korea. And all my friends would be listening to K-pop, you know, like Wonder Girls, Girls' Generation, like all that stuff. And I really did like those music, the K-pop stuff. But as like a rebellious teenage boy, I just wanted something that smacks a little more grit to it. And I just happened to, yeah, I had a social studies tutor, and he was like a 12th grader at the time, and I was like 10. I got my first iPod video, and I told him, hey, could you just like put some music that you listen to? Like, I don't even know how to like sync, because back then you had to sync the music to the thing. And he's like, sure. And he he synced in all the music he listens to, and it's like the most hardcore rap. And I was just like, wow, like what is this stuff? This is insane. So from there on, I kind of got into what hip hop is. And for me, in the Korean rap scene, it was more like Epic High, Dynamic Duo, and a bit more underground, like Soul Company, like those guys. But in America, I had a huge love for Notorious Big, Tupac, and then from there on, of course, like Tribe and De La Soul, those guys really, really, like, I replayed their stuff so many times. So yeah, big influence on these artists. Now, fast forward to New York, which is where we are now. Jazz is a big influence here, and of course, jazz has evolved a lot since like the past almost 100 years in this city, and jazz is something that I really look up to, and it's really freeing. There really is no right or wrong to it, and it's a space almost for you to kind of like explore sounds and explore dimensions of music, dynamics even when playing with different people. So it really breaks the boundaries of like what is supposed to be music, what is considered a music. But then also, like, I love listening to classical music like Bach, Mozart, and that talk about the most like contained, like the most structured, well thought of, you know. So it really is like an explosion of sounds where it can be completely free extremely free and completely contained and extremely contained. So large varieties, which I definitely get the energies from when I listen to it, when I perform it, when my friends perform it. I'm there. I definitely get that influence, that feeling, because music is just energy, right? So it just hits me, all different sorts of energies. Yeah. Actual process. Sometimes I like to just have a goal in mind. I'm gonna finish, I don't know, like an album this month, and I like lock myself in the studio, no distractions whatsoever, and it's very goal oriented. Like I'm gonna get it done, like work status. But I realized that to get the juiciest music for me, I really need the time and space for it, to figure out what is amusing to me. So I usually just sit around the piano and I'm just improvising by myself. And if I like the sounds that I'm hearing, the harmonies, I don't, yeah, I just go straight to recording, record the stuff, and get to business. Walt Disney Records, I think they reached out to me and they told me that they're gonna be doing a Disney album where you get to like remix or do a rendition of a Disney track. And I grew up with watching Disney in my childhood, so it was a really interesting opportunity for me. And yeah, so as soon as they reached out to me, they've been really nice. Really, the communication was great. Love the people who work there, and yeah, I think it was a successful collaboration. So I started Etymology Records right around the end of 2019, and I started kind of like as a passion project, and I had some mentors who encouraged me that maybe I should start like a community and to do music, and help artists and make more collaborations happen. And so it's been quite the journey for me. And at first it was just lo-fi only, and fast forward 4 years later, it's like now I think we've collaborated with over like 600 artists. Um, and a lot of them are direct, but also indirectly because the producers that we work with usually have collaborators. So now we also have a classical music division where we have an in-house studio and we bring my colleagues and friends to come over and like record classical music. So it's been the most exciting journey so far in my life. I think for lo-fi, we've had some compilation albums that we've ran, and it was definitely a highlight for Etymology Records. Really inviting producers that I believe is super talented, and just kind of organically giving them the freedom to, hey, just like this is sort of like the inspiration we're going for. For example, like we had 3 compilation albums. One was Barista Beats, the album, and we wanted to make every track a different like drink menu in a cafe setting. So that was Barista Beats, and I just told them, hey, like make your own drink and send us whatever that drink is. And it's been really fun journey, kind of like that. And Earwormer, something that's like album 2 for the compilation. It's been like whatever makes them feel warm, like in winter. So it's kind of like seasonal. And then there was like the 3rd compilation, which was Botanicalia, which was, hey, like if you had a botanical garden, like which track, which flower do you want to like make it into a sound? In the classical division, I just recently went to Prague, Czech Republic, and got to actually record a whole orchestra, Czech Symphony Orchestra, that is, and it was really an incredible opportunity for me, and the conductor there was great, Michaela, and and I also had the opportunity to sing with the orchestra, so it was really a win-win project for me. Yeah. The biggest influence of my music and who I am as a person has been learning meditation. Yeah, and as I'm always zooming in life, like zooming in, and zooming in, Meditation kind of like taught me, it's like maybe it's not about zooming in per se, but taking this time to like zoom out and zoom out and zoom out and zoom out, keep zooming out. And that, wow, like that was just kind of like a big turning point in my life. And just like learning how to stop from, and when life is always going, right? So meditation has been a key influence to my journey in life. My experience with downtown has always been very positive. And the reason being is because everyone that I've communicated with has been very communicative and very friendly. And there are many people in the office that are like always willing to come and meet out for a coffee, and some even like host me, right? And I have really good friends in the office. So yeah, my overall experience with downtown's been nothing but a blast. So the music industry is always like evolving, right? So my mission statement is kind of, I want to be able to facilitate like a positive change in the music that I'm involved with. And in regards to lo-fi, there's definitely a lot of changes going on in this community. And for me, I have my artistic vision as myself as the producer, and I want to make sure whatever projects that I do in the future, I want to make sure that we kind of stay in line with this vision that I have, which for me is really, it's kind of hard to describe in words, because music itself, that's kind of like what I hear, the music. I want that kind of influence to go on. So not, I don't have a project in particular, but definitely want to use all my energies as possible to kind of facilitate this change. And for classical, I want to make it more trendy, more hip, more young per se, more approachable to the general audience and people out there. So that's what I'll be using all my energy on. I don't particularly have a goal, but I really do enjoy what I'm doing. And as long as I'm, doing better than yesterday, adding some sort of value to the project that I started, then it keeps me afloat. It keeps me happy. So no like concrete goals, but I guess it's abstract, but it's to just grow every day. Yeah.